Hey, welcome back to Video Game Tester 101. My name is Lawrence, and I'm a guy who's been in the video game industry for 2 minutes. Uh, I was thinking about some of the questions that I get over time, and one of them was, do I have any regrets being in the video game industry, um, or at least being a video game QA? Uh, and so it's a combination of, do I have any regrets, and then what would I do differently? So I had to think about that, right? Because if some of you guys don't know that I've moved on to some other things. I do code, and I'm a QA automation engineer. I'm also a realtor here in Austin, Texas. But I think back on my journey. How did I get here? How did I get to this point to where I am now? Because at one point in time, I was a GameStop manager in San Diego, and then I got my foot in the door. And so, what does that progression look like? That progression looks like I just wanted to play video games because I thought it was a lot of fun. I got in, and it had its ups and downs, but I networked with people and I learned a lot. I remember at BioWare, in fact, I was assigned to work with a particular programmer, and I was looking at his screen. Now that I know how to code now, it was C sharp. It was all C sharp, but I didn't know what that meant. Like, what does C sharp mean? We don't know what that means, right? It's just jibber jabber. It's matrix. And so I looked at his screen and I was like, what is that? And he was like, well, it does this and does this. And so it was one of those things to where right off the bat, I knew, I was like, I can't do that. Like, my brain already exploded just for him trying to explain it. And I was like, that's too hard. I can't cut it. Not anyway, next conversation. But I realized that you can get paid really well. And at that particular time, I'm a father of three now, but at that particular time, I was a father of two. And, QA didn't pay that well at the time. So it was really rough. So I was like, okay, I've always had that in the back of my hand. But as time progressed, I networked more and more, and I was able to meet more and more people in the video game industry who were programmers. And I got the courage. I just got the inclination, the courage to just ask him a little bit more. Can you tell me about this? So I went to King's Isle, and there was a wonderful, I forgot his name, wonderful guy who sat and taught me Java. At the time, I didn't know what Java meant, but he was walking me through what Java was. And so it was like this stepping stool to where I am now. So what I do now is I'm a QA automation engineer, and so I automate a lot of these particular tasks for software. But it had to start somewhere. It wasn't that my learning started in video game QA. It was more or less that my questions started in video game QA. And my curiosity started in video game QA. Because, if had I not moved into the software world, which video games are the software world, would I have even been bold enough to ask these questions? Would I have even come to the thought that maybe I should take, programming a little bit more serious? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't live in a multiverse where I can see what my options were. But so I can say without a doubt, I'm tremendously grateful for the QA world that I went through, because it got me to a point now where I've made the steps. I have the experience. I have the understanding to do what I do now, which I find to be it's not the easiest, but it's not the hardest thing, but it's not exactly easy. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it. But I had the luxury of having video game QA kind of like guide me through that particular process, networking with people who didn't look down on me all the time, and they were willing to walk me through stuff and explain stuff to me. So I really appreciate that tremendously. Now, if I could go back, what would I do differently? Well, it's almost as if, like, if I could go back knowing what I know now, well, I would know so much, so I wouldn't make any of my mistakes. So I don't like, if I went back in time and I was like thrown into my body when I was 20 with all my knowledge now, I would be a billionaire, gazillionaire, right? Because I knew how to do everything, so much better. But if I could give my advice to my older self, I would have told myself to take the software experience a little bit more serious, and not float around and be content with the lack of knowledge that you have. I would give myself that advice. The reason being is because QA in itself, video game QA, can lead to a rewarding path, but it all depends on what you define as rewarding. For me, I was a father of three, and I was really poor. I was making less than $50,000 a year in Austin, Texas. Where the prices were going up, and it's still very expensive today. So it's like you had to figure out how to survive and how to take care of your family in this tech-rich city. So I would have told myself, hey, as soon as you can, network with the right people, and when they give you, programming or coding advice, take it serious and dive deeper into it immediately while you have the people in front of you. In my, I have a free course, and I'll drop the link below. In one of my free courses, I talk about the pros and cons of the video game industry, and one of the cons is that you get laid off a lot. But the thing is that, okay, if you take the advice of the people that you have there who know so much more than you, while you have them in front of you, while you have them in your network, because eventually you'll part ways. But if you could figure out how to stay connected, figure out how to utilize the knowledge that they give you, then you can grow so much from that. So I think what I was doing in my youth was I was just kind of coasting, enjoying the ride. I was having a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun with it, but I wasn't pushing myself to go. I wasn't pushing myself to go outside of QA into like realms of development. I wasn't pushing myself there. I was just kind of like trying to get higher in the QA ladder, which is fine if that's your direction. But I was a little bit desperate, and I didn't know that. I didn't know to push myself in that realm. So I think QA, video game QA, video game testing, for those who are curious, is without a doubt was essential to the journey where I am now. And if I had to go back, I would have done it much faster. I would have taken the progression that I've gone and probably cut it in half, if not cut it down by a few years, because it took me a while to get it. I just didn't have that learning ethic, that work ethic to learn as well as I do now that I'm older, and the desperation, I wish I could have avoided the desperation that I had at that time. Okay. Well, if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe. If you guys have any questions, drop them below. As a reminder, I have that free course down below. Check it out, and I'll see you next time.